How's it going? My name is Dan Titmuss. I am a white male with brown hair, blue eyes, and I use he, him pronouns.
Hi, everyone. My name is Shannon Bunting. I'm a digital marketing analyst and SEO practitioner at Capacity Interactive. I am a fairly small brown female with long, curly black hair, and I'm wearing a blue blazer and black pants. And my pronouns are she, her, and hers.
And we're going to be talking to you about SEO, and as Priya just mentioned, SEO can seem like this endless task of content creation and technical jargon and a bunch of nonsense, and you're not wrong. But SEO doesn't have to be hard, and you can quote me on that. By the end of this presentation, we are going to have for you a 4-week plan that I'm confident will get you writing about SEO, writing about content that is pertinent to your organization by the end of this month. So I'm going to be a little bit vulnerable with you right now and share with you my search engine history. Yeah? Because I think search engine history can really tell a story about a person. So let me just quickly set the scene. It's May 2020, okay? We're deep in the pandemic, and like the rest of the country, I'm really into sourdough. And unfortunately, I had a hair appointment scheduled for the end of March. So my hair is a mess, and there are some questionable choices happening about mustaches, which are unfortunately regrettable. And as you can see from this picture here, changes need to be made. And so I go ahead and enter this remarkably dangerous search query into Google. How to cut your own hair. And I end up on this article here, which outlays it all seems very simple. I'm not the only one who made this mistake. This is how to cut hair at home, the search query. It really peaked around April, sort of like end of March, early April here. And so, next part, this happened. This is my wife cutting my hair here. She's so wonderful at so many things. She's incredibly talented. She's an amazing singer. Not the best hairdresser in the world, okay? And so it was a little nerve-wracking. So I went back to Google. I searched how to fix a bad haircut men. And I found this article here, which talked about layers and fades and stuff. It all seemed very complicated. And I had these sort of tufts at the back of my head. I thought maybe I can style this out somehow. So I said, how to make a rat tail look good. Found this article. Didn't quite suit my hair. Didn't quite suit my head. So perhaps something slightly more drastic. How to shave your head for the first time. I found this one, which all looked very intimidating. And the sad conclusion to this tale, best hats for bald guys. Found this article here, best hats for bald guys, summer and winter.
So why is this relevant to content creators like you? Well, every article Dan clicked on was a great example of search-first content that answered his queries. In this session, we're going to reframe the way we think of SEO content, where we'll focus on creating blog content that answers users' queries. We're going to simplify the content creation process into actionable steps, and as Dan said, at the end of this session, we're going to give you a 4-week plan to help you kickstart your SEO content creation process as soon as you return to your offices on Monday. We are going to turn SEO from meaning seemingly exhausting operations, we're going to turn it into super easy optimizations that you can make now. But first, we're going to show you just how valuable SEO is. Now, I'm going to take a guess that every single person in the room right now has used a search engine today at least once. Search engines are so valuable, right? Now, to quantify how valuable, before we quantify it, it actually turns out that this Harris Interactive poll determined that 80% of all online activity begins on search engines. So we already addressed my exciting question, right? That everybody has probably used a search engine and that they are very valuable. So I want to help you all quantify the value of search engines in your daily life. So I'll ask you a question. How much would someone have to pay you to not use a search engine for a year? So think about that. Now, there is this other fact I want to share with you, that 41% of web users find brands through search rather than by just typing a URL into a browser. Now, to help answer that question that I asked you, we have some facts that we want to share with you about MIT's management school's study. They did a study to determine how much an average user would have to be compensated to not use free digital goods for a year. And by free digital goods, I'm talking about search, email, and digital maps like Google Maps or Waze. So it turns out the median user would require compensation of over $17,000 to forego use of search engines for a year. They'd require over $8,000 to lose access to email for a year, and over $3,000 to not use digital maps for that same period of time. Now, I personally would require more compensation than this to not use search engines for a year, because finding accurate answers is so useful and so valuable, and finding them quickly is invaluable. Google realizes this, which is why they consider the relevance of pages so carefully before ranking sites on a search engine results page, or SERP.
And there's over 200 factors that go into this, right? And so it can seem really complicated. But here's the thing you need to remember. Google wants you to succeed at this, right? They want to provide relevant search answers to people that are typing in search queries. Because if they don't do that, they can't sell millions and billions and trillions of ads at the top, which is how they make their money. Google is a business, right? And so this concept is our North Star when it comes to simple SEO, right? The thing we can point towards to block out all the noise. All we need to do is work within their guidelines and answer the search query that people are typing in with a piece of content. And this content is best suited for placement on your site's blog. When I say blog, I'm talking about stuff like the amazing film here, which is of Julie and Julia, which is the 2009 Nora Ephron masterpiece, which showcased Meryl Streep, Amy Adams, and the incomparable Stanley Tucci. But many arts organizations utilize their blog for communicating with patrons and audiences. But maybe let's rethink this.
Right, so Dan's mentioning what we like to call the classic path to your blog. This is probably the path that you think of the most, where you think of a user who's already familiar with your organization, first navigating to your site, then to your blog, then they click on your blog article. And this is probably why most of your blog articles are based on information and news surrounding your organization. Things like season announcements, your new artistic director, and fundraising news are all useful topics for blog articles, but unfortunately, the majority of users are not searching for these topics. So let's instead think of your blog and your blog content from a search-first perspective. Think of a user who is not familiar with your organization typing a general query into Google. And on the search engine results page, right at the top, they're met with a listing of a blog article that your organization has created, which answers their query. So they click on that article to learn more and are introduced to your organization. This is search-first perspective. But for this concept to work, you have to create blog content that answers users' queries. Now, the long-term benefit of the investment of time in creating content like this is every blog article you create is going to be a new page that's permanently added to your site. I've seen blog articles that were created years ago, still generating thousands of clicks per month for some of our clients. The more SEO content you have on your site, the more opportunities you'll have to rank for the various things users are searching for. Now, some of you might be wondering, wait a minute, do we even have a blog? And the answer is almost certainly yes, but it might be called something different. While Northrop's blog is called a blog, Carnegie Hall's is called articles. We've seen blogs called things like news or updates, and even some more creative names like Ballet Met's Behind the Curtain.
So now we've identified where your blog is. What should you write about? Well, as we've alluded to, you need to be writing about things that people are searching for. So I guess you have to be a mind reader. Great. Just kidding. You actually do something called keyword research. Now, this is the process of discovering which keywords and phrases users are searching for, how much competition there is for these words and phrases, and how many times these words and phrases are searched over time. Wow, that's a lot of jargon. To simplify down, we need to basically come up with ideas for blogs that people are searching for. And you can boil this down to 3 main phases.
Yes.
Inspiration, where we're coming up with a bunch of ideas. Research, where we're gathering data on those ideas, those keywords. And finally, selection, where we're picking which article is the best one to focus our blog article around. Which keyword is the best one to focus our blog article?
Now, the easiest tool to start with, to start getting inspiration about which keyword to select for your blog article, is Google's autocomplete feature. This is a really fun thing to use for quick results. And let me tell you how it works. All you do is in the Google search bar, you type in a general query or a subject, and you look at the autocomplete results to see which of these might inspire a blog article, maybe a topic or some content. So in this example, we're using Shakespeare as our query. And we can see in the autocomplete results that there is a result called Shakespeare Plays. So maybe a blog article we could create that would answer that query would be 10 Shakespeare plays you should read before you die. Maybe another query that would be a good inspiring topic would be Shakespearean sonnets. So maybe we could write a blog article that's called 5 Shakespearean Sonnets About Love You Should Memorize This Valentine's Day. These 2 articles I just brainstormed off the top of my head would answer these queries.
Another really great resource is this site here, answerthepublic.com. What you can do with this site is put in a phrase, so like a word or 2, and then it will compile all of the questions that people are asking on Google and other locations about that phrase. So for example, who Shakespeare was and his life. Can Shakespeare be translated? Will Shakespeare, well that one doesn't quite work. But you can keep going through this, and it has all of these questions compiled. It also has prepositions and comparisons on there as well. And right at the bottom, there's a list of alphabeticals. So if you type in Shakespeare space A, it'll autocomplete to a bunch of different things. So for example, here we have Shakespeare names, nickname, novel, New York, etc. So each of these can be used to inspire blog articles. The questions like, can you visit Shakespeare's grave? Or what Shakespeare play is She's the Man based on, for example?
So let's take that query, Dan, what Shakespeare play is She's the Man based on, and we'll type that into a Google browser here. And what we'll see below are relevant blog articles that answer the query. So you can see here, or maybe you can't because it's kind of small, but Insider.com actually answered that query twice with 2 separate blog articles. Now, I'm going to share with you one other method for getting keyword inspiration. This one's my favorite one, and it's called creating avatars.
Cool.
Not this kind of avatar. I'm talking about creating fictional profiles that represent your ideal audience members so you can brainstorm things they might be searching about and write content to answer their queries. So let's give this a try. Let's pretend we are an organization that presents classical music concerts, and we know many of our audience members enjoy the classical music programs that we present. So we create an avatar called the Classical Music Nerd. Now, this audience member probably has prior knowledge of classical music, maybe even is a classically trained cellist herself, and loves to learn about nerdy classical music topics. So what kind of search queries might she have? Let's brainstorm. It might be best luthier near me, Mstislav Rostropovich, Bach cello suites, Dotzower etudes, sheet music, how to reset a sound post, actors that actually learned the instruments their characters play in movies, and how do I get a job teaching actors how to realistically fake play instruments.
Now, on the other hand, classical music nerds might bring their friends, classical music newbies. And we want to try and write for those as well. So what are some of the things that they might search for? Well, maybe stuff like, how do trombones work? Mystery to me. Song in Chef's Table. Beethoven.
Just by itself.
Best creepy classical music. Why do orchestras need a conductor? And classical music for studying.
Now that we've created a couple of avatars and brainstormed some of the queries each avatar might search, the next step we're going to take is to write blog articles that answer these queries. So when the classical music nerd gets curious about which actors actually learned the instruments their characters play in movies, and she Googles that query, she'll be met with this blog article. This particular one is from Classic FM, and it answers her search query.
Similarly, when the classical music newbie is watching his favorite food program on Netflix and hears a vaguely classical sounding song right at the beginning, he might search song on chef's table and be met with this article from ETA, which tells me that it was Vivaldi's Four Seasons Winter, if I'm not mistaken.
I'm impressed.
No,
Good job, Dan. Now, if you work in the classical music scene, you'll probably want to write content for Shannon. But don't forget about Dan. Your ordinary is Dan's extraordinary. Remember, good search-first content needs to provide answers to our target audience's queries. Now that we've covered a few different ways to get inspiration for our search-first blog content, we probably now have a list of relevant keywords that we think our audience members will be searching for. So do you remember we mentioned keyword research being a 3-phase process? There was research, inspiration, and selection. So we've completed the inspiration phase. Let's dive into the research phase. Now, to determine which keywords from our list we want to target with our search first blog content, we have to research the competition and volume of these keywords. Now, the volume, I'll define these terms for you. The volume of the keywords tells us how many people are searching for that particular keyword. And the competition means, or that term means, how difficult it is to rank on the search engine results page for that keyword.
And we can take these two metrics and plot them on a graph here with competition on the x-axis and search volume on the y-axis. And as you can see, the things we want to hit are in this upper left-hand quadrant. Let me demonstrate this. Let's say we are a visual arts museum. So every page on our site is vaguely relevant, if not very relevant, the term art, A-R-T, on its own, right? But if we look at the search engine results page for that term, we can see that it's extremely crowded, right? There's people selling art. There's art.com, and like a pure domain like that's always going to rank pretty highly. There's questions about art. There's galleries where you can buy art. There is news about art. There's a .gov site. Again, a .gov site always going to rank very highly. There's a lot of search authority there. So although there's lots of people searching for art, the competition for it makes it really difficult to attain because it's so crowded. So it's in this upper right-hand quadrant here. Let's go to the opposite sort of example here. A search phrase like art to do with mirrors was made in the early 2010s that represents the souls of millions of people. Now, if we made a page that targeted that very long keyword, I guarantee we could get on that first page of search results, probably the top result. But here's the thing, no one's searching for that. It's in the bottom left quadrant there. So a good midpoint might be Yo-Yo Kusama or Infinity Mirror Art. These aren't too difficult for us to attain, but there's enough search volume that it makes it worth actually searching for.
So the keyword planner in Google Ads is going to give you the competition and volume data you need to determine which keywords to target with your search first blog content. All you'll need to do is copy that list of keywords, paste it into the keyword planner, and it's going to generate a table that looks like this with all of your keywords and the competition and volume data. Now, it's important to note that users with higher search intent will likely be utilizing longer and more specific keywords in their searches. So a good keyword to base SEO content around is a long tail one, because users who are searching for a relevant query will likely be looking for exactly the answer you're providing with your blog article. Now, keyword research is a very important phase of creating useful search-first content. But don't let the data behind it all keep you from starting to actually write content.
Because writing content is kind of the fun part, in my opinion. An important thing here is once we have our keyword is don't overthink it. All you need to do is answer that search query. But there are a couple of ways in which you can approach doing that. One of the ways I really like to split things out is between magazine-based content and encyclopedia-based content. So here's how I define those two things. Magazine content is shorter, usually. More casual, includes like images, things like listicles, features, articles, think pieces, stuff like that. Things that you wouldn't be out of place in like a magazine about your institution's genre or location. Encyclopedia stuff is usually longer, not always, as we'll see later, but usually longer, more specific. It's written in a more formal way, something you might find in like Encyclopedia Britannica, for example. It's important to try and answer both queries in different ways.
Now, let's review some examples of these different types of blog content. And we'll start with this magazine example here from Carnegie Hall's blog called 5 Things to Know About Messiaen's Quartet for the End of Time. Now, this blog article was created in March of 2021, and it is a top result on the search engine results page, as you can see here. So Google finds this article extremely relevant to the non-branded keyword Messiaen end of time. Now, the article itself is evergreen and brief. It includes a few musical excerpts and the title of those excerpts. This adds even more relevance to the page. So users who search this query will be introduced not only to the musical work, but also to Carnegie Hall. So this is a great example of search-first content.
Here's another piece of search-first magazine-based content. If you type in Don Quixote ballet characters, Ballet's created this article, which all it does is answer that query by summarizing each character on the search engine results, each character on the blog article here. And it has a little video at the top, which is always great.
Now, our next example is an encyclopedia-style blog article, also from Carnegie Hall's blog, and this blog is called Period Instruments, a Short Guide. Now, this particular article is longer than a magazine-style blog article, and it contains more in-depth information, this one in particular about historically informed performances. Now, think back to the classical music nerd and classical music newbie avatars we created earlier. This is the type of content that the classical music nerd might click on and read first before the classical music newbie does, but I think the newbie could read it and appreciate it too, so it's good.
Yeah. Another example of encyclopedia here is an example of a shorter content, which I said, short piece of content, which I mentioned before. So with the term classical ballet versus contemporary ballet, all Ballet is doing here is answering that search query. It's pretty short, but it's to the point, and it's a really good example of encyclopedia-based content that answers that query.
Now, this example, also from Carnegie Hall's blog, is a magazine-style example, but what is really important about it is that it answers a very important search query that is branded. Now, typically with Search First Perspective, we focus on non-branded keywords for upper funnel acquisition. But this query, which this blog article answers, called Where is the Best Seat in Carnegie Hall, is a super popular query for users who are trying to find the best seat at Carnegie Hall. And if Carnegie Hall hadn't created that article, you can see here in this paid ad at the top of the search engine results page that vividseats.com would have provided users with the answer to that query. The lesson here is people want answers, and you should provide them with those answers in your blog articles. Now, your blog articles, whether magazine style or encyclopedia style, can and should be shared over your social media channels. And this is a great way to direct your social media traffic toward your website. Now, spoiler alert, if all the other stuff we've mentioned so far in this presentation is just too much, download this guide. This is a free resource from Capacity Interactive available on your website that you can download, and it's filled with perfect prompts for blog articles. They're all upper funnel, and there's a topic for almost every single day. So all you'll need to do is download the guide, pick a topic, and write a blog article. Now, for example, in this guide, you can see that yesterday was International Project Management Day, and today is National Fountain Pen Day.
So next we're going to talk to you about a way to write your blog articles with using artificial content. Now, wouldn't it be awesome if we could get a cute but kind of very creepy robot like this to do all your work for you? That would be great, okay? But a little bit of a warning first. We're going to talk to you about a robot called Hitchbot. So Hitchbot was a little robot that was created by a couple of students, I think, in Europe. And it was all like solar-powered, self-contained. It would put its little thumb out like this, and people would take it in the car and drop it off at like a different location. It was a nice little social experiment. It went all the way throughout Europe, through Canada. Within a few hours of being in Philadelphia, it was beheaded. No beef with Philly at all, okay? In fact, I'm a big Philadelphia Eagles fan, 8-0, woo! So no beef at all, but I think it does summarize where we are with AI and Philadelphia. AI isn't perfect just yet. You can't just let it go and do all your work for you, but what it can do is work as an assistant, a tool at your disposal. And there are a bunch of different AI tools out there, like Jasper, Shortly. But this one here, writer.me, is free for the first 5,000 characters of AI-generated content. We love the word free. Now, I would understand if you're skeptical, okay? I was skeptical when I first used this first used this tool. But I'm going to take you through and show you how to use it and why you should use it. In fact, I'm going to take you all the way from the keyword research process to writing a blog article using these tools to show how quickly you can come up with SEO-based content for your site. So let's pretend we are a Shakespeare organization, like a Shakespeare theatre, or a theatre that puts on a lot of Shakespeare. If that does happen to be you in the audience or at home, please steal this. The first thing I'm going to do is go to answerthepublic.com. I'm going to look around a couple of these keywords. So there's got some questions here which are interesting, but I'm going to go to the alphabetical. So Shakespeare Express, not quite sure what that is. Shakespeare House, Hotel, and Hometown. That could be interesting for like a blog article about visiting Stratford-upon-Avon. But one thing that really stuck out to me here was this term Shakespeare King. Now, I did a little bit of research on this using Google Ads, as Shannon mentioned before. And I had a monthly search volume of around 1,300 a month, which isn't half bad. And I had pretty low competition. But I also want to check out the search engine results page to see what kind of things are already on there. So once I've picked that keyword, type that into Google. And we can see there is like a list of all the kings that Shakespeare wrote about. And then there is this sort of, the rest of everything above the fold, the bottom of the search engine results page when you look at it, is about this book that was written in 1999. And it's pretty dense. It's pretty like thick. It's pretty formal. It's not great SEO content. So I reckon there might be an opportunity here to write about Shakespeare Kings and create an SEO-first blog article about it. So I am going to go to writer.me. I have no idea what I'm going to write so far. This is where Writer comes in. So this is where Writer comes in. So I'm going to use this use case here, which is blog, idea, and outline. There are a bunch of different use cases you can do. Like you can write emails and like ad copy and stuff, but this is a really useful one. I'm going to put in a few primary keywords here, so Shakespeare King, Shakespearean Kings, stuff around that. I'm going to click the tone. Convincing is interesting. Enthusiastic sounds good. I think urgent and worried might be a little odd for all these dead kings. So I'm going to select passionate and create the creativity level as optimal, which I usually just do. I'm going to click write, and it's going to display for me, it's going to spit out this idea for a blog article. So we've got here the 50 greatest Shakespearean kings ranked from worst to best. It's not perfect, right, so far, right? There's probably too many to talk about. Probably isn't that many. I think King Claudius was not from that play. So it's going to need some refinement, but it's a good jumping off point. Okay, so next thing I'm going to do is get a list of kings. How did I do this? I went to a list of all the Shakespeare characters, Control-F, king, and put it into an Excel file. Excel's like your secret weapon when it comes to creating content because you can format stuff, you can concatenate stuff, you can display stuff. Don't overlook it, it's really useful. Next thing I'm going to do is think about paring that article down. So I start with 50 greatest kings. Probably going to pare that down to like around 7, a bit more manageable. But it's pretty subjective, that subject. And I'm not sure what are the best kings from Shakespeare. So I'm going to do some more research. I'm going to go to Google, type in best Shakespeare characters, and basically just look at which of those king characters jumps out constantly on these different results. Using Control F, we got like King Richard III there, I think. We got David Tennant. We have King Lear. A few of these kings kept jumping out. So I can go back to Writer now and enter those kings, and also have a little bit of an introduction here. So introduction, the importance and history about Shakespearean kings, and also talked about why did Shakespeare write about kings. And then underneath each of these kings, I'm putting basic keywords, right? Stuff like if I want to focus on Richard III, I've got Richard III, Shakespeare Richard III, Richard III summary. And all I'm going to do here now is select each section and use the paragraph function on Writer. And this will spit out a bunch of content, which may or may not be good. So I'm going to click paragraph here, and, pretty good. I think it's a little bit short. So I'm going to go ahead, literally just select that section again, click paragraph again, and it's going to do exactly the same thing and spit out even more content for me to pare down. After that, I might go and tackle some of the kings over here. So I'm going to highlight Richard III, and then also highlight the keywords underneath, and click that paragraph again. Now it has stuff like King Richard III summary and Shakespeare Richard III. So when I click paragraph, it's going to spit out a bunch of commentary, which will hopefully summarize the play and talk about King Richard. So it's really powerful, because it spits out all of this really, really great content. I'm going to do exactly the same with King Henry V here. Click paragraph there. It's thinking. Most famous and successful of all English kings, one of Shakespeare's most famous plays, etc., etc. Pretty useful topics. I can even go back to the start over here and talk about the history and importance. Click that, and it'll tell me all about the different kings, etc., etc. It's a really useful tool, but don't forget the story of Hitchbot, okay? Right. We are not at the place of AI where we can just press publish on this immediately, but we can use it as a tool, a really useful tool that's in your disposal to start writing and get a first draft really quickly.
So now that we've covered how you can quickly and efficiently create SEO content, let's talk about a few technical components of SEO you should implement for this new content that you've created. Now, first, we'll talk about SEO tags. Proper SEO tags are important because they can help search engines understand and index your content properly on the search engine results page. So we'll start here by talking about title tags and meta descriptions. You can see here that title tags and meta descriptions are basically the headlines and descriptions of your pages. They're built into the source code, and you can see on the left what it looks like in your source code, and on the right you can see how that code renders on the search engine results page. So to set your new blog article up for success, it's important that you use that your title tags and your meta descriptions are meeting Google's guidelines. So let's review those guidelines here. Your title tag should be no longer than 65 characters. It should be unique, so it shouldn't be a copy and paste from any other page on your site. Now, the title tag is one of the main factors Google's crawlers analyze when considering where to rank your page on the search engine results page, so make sure that any keywords you want to rank for are included in your title tag. Now let's move on to meta descriptions. Your meta description should be between 100 and 160 characters. These should also be unique for every single page on your site. While the meta description does not affect rank, it does affect click-through rate. So it's important that your meta description is an accurate description of what is on the page. And both of these tags should contain branded and non-branded keywords that are relevant to the topic you're writing about, so search engines understand why this is relevant and then can help rank it for relevant queries users have. Now, to demonstrate this, let's look at the Shakespeare Kings blog that Dan just created. You can see the title tag here, is the 7 best Shakespearean king characters. So since our target keyword was Shakespeare king, we definitely want to make sure that's in our title tag, which isn't hard since those keywords are included in the title. So we'll definitely include the full title in our title tag, and because we have remaining characters, we insert our brand name in the title tag. Now the meta description is an accurate description of what was on the page, and if you can read it, cool, but if you can't, because it's so small, I'll read it for you. It's learn which of the Shakespearean kings are the best in all of Shakespeare's plays and why they're notable in this short blog article. And because we stayed within character limits, you can see no parts of our title tag or meta description are cut off. So this is how it renders on the SERP, and it's beautiful. So let's talk about another type of SEO tag that is going to add more relevance to your page. And this one is for images, and it's called an image alt attribute. What this allows you to do is to describe any images on your page with keywords that are relevant. So when you're selecting images, pick ones that are relevant to keywords you're trying to rank for. So you can use those keywords in the description of your image, which you will put in the alt attribute. In this example of a Les Mis production, which is being presented by TPAC, you can see in its image alt attribute, they include the keywords Les Miserables and One Day More, which are extremely relevant to that particular show. Now, the next thing we want you to think about is checking on your site health. What I mean by this is taking the time to check on your site to make sure it's not experiencing any issues that will prevent search engines from finding and understanding your pages. When we've done SEO evaluations of sites, some things we've come across are CMS page duplication, 301 redirect chains, outdated sitemaps, or incorrect blocks on your robot.txt files, which can cause page crawling issues. All of these issues can affect how Google ranks your page. And the amazing search first content that you created will not be indexed optimally if search engines can't find it. Finally, consider adding internal links with anchor text in your blog content that will guide users through your site and toward the purchase path, as Carnegie Hall does here at the bottom of the blog, where they've included links to upcoming performances that are relevant to the blog article. Now, Dan.
So we've just talked to you a lot about SEO. Guess what? We do that. We can talk about SEO for a long time. But to summarize it, we're going to do this 4-week plan, which will hopefully sort of contextualize how you can put this into practice. So this is kind of a summary and a takeaway sort of section as well. So week 1, what you want to be doing is getting to know your CMS. Figure out where to put those title tags and meta descriptions. If you're on WordPress, you're probably, or you might be using a plugin called Yoast, which is really, really great because you can just paste it right at the bottom in the little Yoast box. But most CMSs have some place to put title tags and meta descriptions. If they don't, talk to your developers and get that done, because that's really important. Then double check nothing's being blocked, so that your robots files, stuff like that. Usually it's not, but this stuff can happen. Then schedule your brainstorming session for your keyword research. Any stakeholders that are going to contribute to content. This is like the marketing team. If you have like an editorial or content person, get them involved. People in your box office who are talking to patrons every day, get them involved as well. And then figure out who is going to write the content, assign a content writer.
Could be a robot.
Could be a robot.
Yeah. So in week 2, complete your keyword research. Go through the inspiration, research, and selection phases. This is where you'll create your search avatars, you'll brainstorm content for your blog article with your team, and select the topic you're going to write about.
Week 3, write the content. Feel free to use some of those tools at your disposal to write faster and more efficiently, like writer.me.
And in week 4, focus on creating a proper title tag and meta description for your blog article, as well as tagging any images you include with an alt attribute. Ensure the layout of your blog article makes sense and allows for easy navigation toward the purchase path. And finally, click publish. Happy writing!
Thanks, everyone.